Hello friends and welcome. This is Katy. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'm excited to be back with another project for Maker Forte, and today we're going to create a couple mini slimline cards using some alcohol ink on vellum. Now the two cards that I'm going to make, one is using a pearlized vellum and the other is just a regular vellum. Both of them are heavyweight, so I definitely recommend something thicker than 30 weight, which is generally what you find. I'm also going to use the floating Gingkos stamp set from Maker Forte, and these are the two pieces of vellum. And the alcohol inks I'm using is Flamingo, Amethyst, and Patina. I've got some 91% isopropyl alcohol. I recommend the 91% over the 70 because 70 has more water in it, which means that it's going to take longer for that alcohol to evaporate. And these are the two vellums. One is there from Clearprint, and this one is from is Curious Translucent Pearlized Vellum. And then I use a condiment bottle as my little blower tool. Now, I have a really good video, especially if you're a beginner with using alcohol inks. I will link it up here and I'll also put it at the end. It was a collab that I did with a friend of mine a year or so ago. And there's a bunch of tips and tricks to getting some cool looks with your alcohol ink. And if you're interested, I'll leave it there so you can check it out. So in that video, I showed you that you can use a Lazy Susie. I use like the cake decorator Lazy Susie. And but today I thought I would show you that you don't have to have that if you don't have one. But I always use the little condiment bottle. I got this in like a set of 6 from Sam's Club years ago, and it's perfect for blowing your air and blowing your ink around. As you can see, I'm basically just putting a drop or two of the alcohol ink and then taking the isopropyl alcohol. You can use blending solution, but this is pretty affordable compared to blending solution. And with the 91%, it's going to dry really quickly, so that especially when you're using vellum, it does minimize your warping. So as I put some alcohol ink down, I take a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and I put a couple drops on. And the thing you want to remember is if you want your panel to be kind of light and your alcohol ink to be a little bit more see-through, then just keep adding your isopropyl alcohol and then doing your blowing around. That way it will thin out the color. If you keep adding color, it's going to darken it. And so you're going to see that a little bit more here towards the bottom of the panel. I will kind of pull that up here in just a second. But like here up at the top, I wanted to add a little bit of that patina. So it does mix with the colors really well. The other thing I want to point out is this comes in a set of 3. And one thing I've noticed about companies when they put sets of colors together like this, they go well together. So they're going to blend a little bit easier. You're going to create a really cool, with that amethyst and patina, a nice indigo. And so don't be afraid to buy those sets. One, it makes it a little bit more affordable because you're getting 3 to a pack. But 2, it does take kind of the guesswork out of the colors that you can use together so that you don't automatically get brown. So here you can see I've kind of added more color and added more, isopropyl alcohol, and some of it get darkened up a little bit more. So just keep that in mind. If you want it to be more light and airy looking, just use a little bit more alcohol in your blower tool to blend, to blow out that color and thin it out a little bit. The more color you add, the darker your panel is going to be. Now this is the regular piece of vellum, which is 48 pound. And the next one that I'm going to do is the Curious Translucent Pearl, and that one is 53 pounds. So these are pretty sturdy weight vellums, and I really like them. And what I like about putting the alcohol inks onto the pearlized vellum is you don't even need to have the pearl alcohol inks. You get the shimmery look from the vellum just from, having it on the vellum. So here I'm really just putting a bunch of color down. I put quite a bit of the flamingo, and then I'll come in with this amethyst, and then I'll finish up the bottom portion of the panel with the patina. And these two panels worked up. I think I did it probably in about 10 minutes. I didn't want to speed the video up too much because since I'm kind of moving that bottle around, it's a little too fast. So I only sped this up 2 times, but I wanted to keep all of this in so that you can see that it doesn't take a lot of skill to be able to do this. Really, it's just kind of identifying where you want your color to be and just starting. You got to start with a color and then fill in from there. I'm going to just put a little bit more of the patina down there at the bottom just to fill in that little section, and then the panel is going to be done. These panels do measure 3.5 by 8.5, and so I will trim them down to, I think it's 3.25 by 5 3/4 is what I end up doing. I do have a set of mini slimline dies that has it cuts out the window and gives you a scalloped edge. So that's what I'm going to do to kind of frame this alcohol ink background. And I tried a couple different things. I initially was going to use a different stamp set, and I didn't like the way that it looked. And I tried it with black ink, and didn't really like the way that looked either. But then I totally switched over and went with the floating Gingkos stamp set and some that stays on ink, the Bordeaux. And I just loved the way that the backgrounds popped with the sentiments. So the sentiments didn't take away from the background, and the background didn't take away from the sentiment. So here I've got my panel all trimmed down to the mini slimline size, and I kind of messed up my stamping. I was so upset. But I had inked it up again, and it got a little blurry, but we're just moving on. Most of that's going to get covered up anyway, so it's not that big a deal. And now I'm just coming in with the final stamping for this this panel. Now this is the pearlized panel, which I'll show you here in just a second. And we'll get a closer look once I get all the stamping done. Now this is the regular vellum. And what I love about the two different panels is the pearlized vellum, it lightens up the alcohol inks a little bit because it has that shimmer and it just kind of softens everything. But on the regular vellum, it gives you just a stronger punch of color. I just love it. Okay, so here, this is how I like to do my sentiment strips sometimes. So I went through and stamped these out since I was making 2 cards. And here I'm just showing you that when you use this type of paper trimmer, you kind of sometimes get a jagged edge there. I just use my bone folder and rub it out, and it smooths everything right out. Now I am going to use some score tape today. Lately I've been having some issue with my cards warping, and word on the street is that it's the liquid glue, and others say you're using too much glue, and the truth is I can't stand it, so we're going to go with some double-sided tape today. So here I'm just using 1/8 of an inch tape and just going around these borders. I added on my piece of vellum to the back of one layer of the mini slimline frame, and then I'm going to tuck these sentiments in. And this particular panel has I put an extra layer of cardstock because I was tucking them in between the two pieces, because I did put a top layer of the scalloped edge die cut there, and so that just kind of seals everything in. You can make this into a shaker card really easily, so that's an option too. And if you don't press super hard with the double-sided tape onto your vellum, you can take it off like I just showed you there with the piece. But if you push really hard and burnish it down, it's going to be stuck there. And of course, you're always going to be stuck with when you're paper to paper with your double-sided tape. So here's the second layer that I'm just putting over the top to seal everything in, and that it finishes this panel. Now, I decided to do something a little bit differently with the second panel. So I'm using my magnets. My glass mat is magnetic, and kind of lining everything up to see where I want it to go. And then I'm going to adhere the sentiment strip onto the vellum, directly on the vellum, and then put the frame over top of it. And I'll tape that and put that all together once I get these sentiment strips on. It took me a little while because I had to have a little bit of an edge, to meet up with the scalloped edge on the other card, and I didn't want to go through that again. So I decided to do it differently. So you have two different ways that you can put these panels together. And all of the sentiments come from the Floating Gingkos stamp set, which I think is great, except for the "and" that there it says "and gratitude." That came from a really old Sizzix stamp set. And these are the panels, and I just love how these turned out. I just love the shimmer that you get without having to go buy the pearlized alcohol ink, and I love the punch of color that you get with just the regular vellum. But that is going to finish it up. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Be sure and check out the description box below, and that's going to take you to a link for the Crafter Party, which is Maker Forte's Facebook group, and join us over there. We'd love to see what you guys are creating. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next video.